Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place.
Running a business is all about leadership. How do you become a better leader? Learn from the successful entrepreneurs and business owners how to lead your organization more effectively. That's why we created Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business, to help you succeed with your host, Andrew Frazier, Business Growth Pro and CFO and founder of the Small Business Pro University. Every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're joined by experienced entrepreneurs and business owners who share their secrets to success via live stream. Also, every Friday morning, we release a new podcast episode. Either way, you will learn about developing your business leadership skills from our roster of highly performing guest experts. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbprou.com.
Good evening and welcome back to Leadership Live at 8:05 Talking Small Business. I'm your host, Andrew Frazier, and thanks again for joining me tonight. Hopefully you're having a great week so far. And, definitely, as you know, we just come here every Tuesday night to really chat about things that can help you be more successful in running your small business. At the end of the day, your business can only go as far as you're prepared to take it. So you have to continually learn and develop your leadership skills so that you can be more successful, take your business further, sell more, make more, and get financing when you need it. And that's what the Small Business Pro University is all about. Today, our topic is really a little bit different than normal. We do a lot of sales and marketing because of how important that is to your business. But, once you make the sales, then what do you do? And that's where your operations comes in. And your operations drives your profitability. You could sell as much as you want, but if it's not profitable sales, it doesn't matter. So we're going to talk about how to boost profit with operational experience. I think that, work with a lot of people on, running their business by the numbers, financial management, and operational excellence, which can really change your profitability significantly. There's so much room for greater efficiency and greater cost savings within mostly all businesses. So this is an area to look at. So definitely, that's why we're covering it today. My guest, Josh Tan, has worked with many business owners and entrepreneurs on, operational excellence. How do you run your operations more effectively? So that's really what we're going to talk about. How do you run your business more effectively and efficiently? And, thanks for tuning in. And hopefully you get a whole lot out of this. Definitely. We welcome your comments and questions, and let's get started. Hey, Josh, how you doing tonight?
Andrew, this is a great intro. There's definitely an energy on the live stream for sure. So I feel fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, I mean, we've been knowing each other for a while, and we reconnected more as of late because the pandemic sort of just messed up connections of people everywhere. But you're doing some good stuff and you've done some great things. So I wanted to get you on the show so we can chat about it. So thanks for joining me.
Yeah, it's for anyone watching, Andrew has a waiting list of a couple weeks. So it's been great process to get on the show. Very excited to be here and talk about all the exciting things about operational excellence, business, leadership. And thank you all for tuning in.
Okay, excellent. So, I could talk a little bit more about you. Well, I'll just mention, where we met. We met at the New Jersey Manufacturing Experience Program Manufacturing Day Conference, correct? And,
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
and that was back before the pandemic. And I did a panel on, I think, cash flow management.
Yeah.
And then you came up when we chatted at the end, and you actually bought a copy of my book. So it's interesting how things go. But appreciated that and appreciated getting to know you. But the audience doesn't really know you. So why don't you take a couple minutes, talk a little bit about who you are, your journey, and how you got to where you are now, and then we'll get started on the topic after that. Sound good?
Sounds great. I love sharing about my story. Actually, it's humble story. Growing up in New Jersey, going to engineering school at Rutgers, becoming a career engineer. Right, I was in manufacturing for over a decade, working in aerospace manufacturing as a process engineer and manufacturing engineer. That's why I learned a lot about these operational excellence tools, process design, process improvement, optimization, failure analysis, you name it, right? Just every day on the floor, hard hat, steel toe boots, safety glasses. And I did that for a decade. And then I woke up one day after being on the road for 5 weeks, and I woke up in Tennessee. I was in a hotel, and I was like, wow, I'm very lonely and I don't want to be doing this engineering thing for like forever. So I started putting a plan in place to become an entrepreneur and become my own boss. And I had a great career. Like, I love my career. I love telling the story. At the height of my career, I managed 110 million pounds, $110 million in production, 35 employees. I've seen, molten metal at 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. I've seen some of the best equipment in the world. Um, it was a great run. It's just something I didn't want to do into the later years of my life. And I've seen some amazing things too, right? Like amazing things and some scary things, right? Two of my scariest days have been in a factory where I, had to there were some emergency procedures that I had to, activate, right? So after I realized I, wanted to do something else, something more aligned with my personal goals around, freedom and time, I put a plan in place to exit. And I didn't know what it was at first. I had moved from Fortune 500 manufacturing to family-owned business, and I saw where family-owned business, they suffer from a lot of operational problems that when you're a big corporation, you can solve it by having more headcount and more time, basically more capacity to solve problems. In a corporate career, you might have 14 people, running a department. In a family business, you have 3 people that work like 14 people, right? So in this small business, I saw that how I could help small businesses. And then after that experience, I stepped out to be a consultant. And now I consult businesses on leadership and management, sales, and operations and team building. So that's my LinkedIn profile. You can click it there. Definitely follow me. I write some great stuff. And yeah, so I've been consulting small companies now for 3.5 years around the topics we're going to get into tonight. Anywhere from namely manufacturers, namely small and mid-sized manufacturers, all the way to e-commerce and CPG businesses. So that's a little bit about me.
Sorry about that. Excellent. So no, thanks for sharing. Definitely we have a little bit of similarities in studied engineering and having experience in manufacturing and yeah, I mean I think between the manufacturing side and being in the military, you see some amazing things and learn some amazing things. But sometimes it's better to be from than to be at. So, taking the experiences and all that from that, has been, extremely valuable. And, it's helped both of us sort of be able to do what we do now. So, so definitely. So, we're going to talk about, operational excellence tonight. But before we get started, we do this through the Small Business Pro University, and just have a short video to just share what the Small Business Pro University is, because we have a lot of valuable resources and tools for entrepreneurs and business owners. And then I'll be back with Josh Chan talking small business.
Many small businesses experience low or no revenue growth, and the owners are not making enough money. I founded the Small Business Pro University to help business owners break that cycle by empowering them with greater knowledge and enhanced skills to lead their companies more effectively. Over the past 15 years, I've worked one-on-one with more than 1,000 business owners and taught tens of thousands of people about business. My experience includes serving as a Navy officer, graduating from MIT, earning an MBA from NYU, and achieving the CFA designation. Small Business Pro University empowers entrepreneurs like you to run their businesses more professionally and create sustainable enterprises. Small Business Pro University provides access to valuable resources, partnerships, and relationships that will help you to grow revenue, increase profit, and obtain financing faster and easier. Our Masterpreneur initiatives include more than 100 expert-led multimedia courses and training programs with more than 2,500 lessons. The Small Business Pro Network, our private community for entrepreneurs. Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business, our weekly live stream and podcast. Advanced Learning Institutes focused on revenue generation, profit maximization, and capital acquisition. And the Power Breakfast series, in-person events where business owners learn best practices, enjoy great networking, and gain useful knowledge. If you want to sell more and make more, you need to check out Small Business Pro University. Visit our website at www.sbprou.com.
Okay, welcome back. I'm here with Josh Tan talking small business. Our topics: how to boost profit with operational excellence. And operational excellence can sort of be like a buzzword, and like all buzzwords, different people, it means different things to different people. So what does operational excellence mean to you, and what type of direction do you think we should take it in this evening?
To me, I mean, coming from an engineering background, operational excellence is all about quality and cost. So, are you producing your product specifically for product-based businesses? Are you producing it to the quality that you're expecting? Can you do that at the best price possible? There's a couple other factors that you should consider, right? If you're producing products, you want to be measuring your scrap rates. That's also a measure for operational excellence. I would say the same is true for service-based businesses and intangibles as well. You want to have some kind of quality standard, which is where you're going to get to that operational excellence. And then instead of scrap, you might be having things like callbacks or rework or something like that. There's a couple things you can measure. So production, is it good? Is it good quality? Any kind of scrap rework? On-time delivery, another level of operational excellence. So that's like those are like the main like traditional ones that most businesses should be measuring. And then as you get more advanced and more sophisticated, you could be looking at things like customer satisfaction, delivery time. The list goes on and on. You could actually get into, right, like on an operational excellence level. Every time you master one thing, right, like the first things are, okay, quality and cost, right? After you get that to a high enough level, you might not want to chase it after it gets to, 85, 90, 95% good production, right? You might want to be chasing things like, employee satisfaction, right? You might want to be chasing things like, are employees showing up on time on their shift? But it really depends on how sophisticated you want to go. I would start with the main three, right? Cost, quality, and on time. And then from there, get more sophisticated.
Okay, great. So definitely, um, you know, running your operations effectively and smoothly. You talked about measurement, because many times what gets measured gets done. You also mentioned that many smaller businesses really aren't doing a good job at this. And, but that's where you come in, right? So what do you see as the biggest issue when you go into businesses, and where do you start with them?
That's great that you started this segment with measurement, because I consistently see businesses that don't measure anything. Definitely, you might be looking at your bank account just as a total number, but you're not looking at any of the financial metrics in your business. So it really depends on what are the KPIs for your business. Each business is different, but you want to have some level of leading and lagging indicators. Leading indicators are your inputs that are going to produce the results you want. So if you want more sales, you don't want to be measuring your sales dollars. You want to be measuring your sales outreach, right? So that would lead to the dollars. A lot of people get it backwards, and then they sit here with the result that they don't want, and they're like, well, how do I change it? You need to be measuring something more upstream. So, normal things I see in businesses that I work with, they're not measuring anything, specifically, no structured sales process. They're doing way too much in marketing, and they're doing all the wrong things in marketing, right? Like, oh, I need to be on social media. Not really. It really depends on what your business is. You might want to do a direct mail campaign. You might want to host online or in-person events, depending on what your business is, right? There's lots of ways to strategically position yourself along with creating joint ventures. So no sales process, not measuring sales, not measuring outreach, wrong type of marketing, not measuring marketing. You need to control your spend, right? What else? And then on the operational side, since this is an operational excellence leadership live, you want to be measuring. Okay, so this gets a little more sophisticated as well. You want to be measuring the inputs, like what products, what are you spending, like cost of goods, right? And then what are your outputs? How many good units do you get out of your process? So that measures in like production rates, right? Like I put in 100 units and I got out 98 saleable units, right? So you're at 98%. So you want to be measuring something like that. If you're a bakery, you want to be trying to measure how much, flour and sugar goes in and how many cookies come out, right? If you're a restaurant, you want to be measuring how many goods you're buying and how many meals you're selling. You want to be measuring something that's the actual product that you're selling. It would be Andrew, if you could kind of tee me up with like a little bit more direction of like who should I be speaking to, could definitely like dig into that more.
Okay. Well, let's take a look. I work with all kinds of businesses, and your comment about marketing. Most businesses, they need their marketing is not what it could or should be, and a lot of times even the people who are helping them with marketing may not be the people who could or should be doing that. So it's important for business owners to learn as much as possible about marketing and selling. So we do a lot of lives on that. But on the other side, you talked about costs. Most businesses don't really know or understand their costs. And, what you talked about there was, not only if you know the cost of making one, are you including the cost of the ones that you made but weren't sellable? Because that adds to your cost. You know these things, and you're talking about measuring, but we're also talking about analysis. That goes, they go hand in hand. So definitely, um, when you're doing analysis of the information, um, are there tools that you bring to the table for people, or how do you help people understand how to analyze their situation?
That's a great question. The first thing is, what are you running your business on now? It's probably a spreadsheet, which is totally fine. You want to move that over to, I would just recommend something simple like QuickBooks. Get your finances over to QuickBooks as fast as possible. You should probably get a QuickBooks implementer to help you move that over, and also move your inventory over to QuickBooks, especially in the world of small business. That is the number one thing I could recommend. It helps a ton. It makes things a lot easier, not just your taxes, but just your general business management gets a lot easier when you can bring that system in. And I do see, a lot of businesses that run on Excel as a small business, Excel or Google Sheets. That's fine. I would just recommend that you don't try to measure everything under the sun, that you actually take a moment to really figure out what's important to measure. Other than that, I would be measuring something in the world of marketing, which is such an important factor, namely outreach and leads generated. Leads generated being a sales call, an inbound, a meeting. You want to be measuring that so you can start to measure, like you can start to predict where you can go from there.
Okay. Great. And one thing that you need to have if you're going to predict is you need information, because if you don't have good information, you can't make good decisions. And I find that to be a problem with many businesses I come into initially. We talked about getting them over to QuickBooks or into systems, which can help with their information. Um, you know, is there other information that you usually run into that they may not have or may need to build when you're working with businesses?
Is there other information they may not have? I think customer data is really important to be looking at, especially now in the data age. Your psychographics and things like that, customer profile, but also their feedback on your product or service, very important to be measuring. I don't think a lot of businesses do that very well. And it's also very difficult to get somebody to click that link, click that survey, answer the call, whatever it may be. So designing a process that it's like inescapable in a way, I would say that's something to build and look at. Employee, I do a lot of work with people. Something that I pride myself on is, I'm a technical person, but I have a lot of people skills. So I think working internally around your culture and measuring your employees, their satisfaction and also their performance is very important. Developing something like a simple scorecard for each employee around their duties, maybe three checkpoints and a simple plus or minus scale. I think that's really easy to do, and most businesses don't do that. I've done that, implemented that many, many times, and I highly recommend it. Yeah, I would start there. I would start looking at people. Other things you can measure, right? Return rates, any kind of return rates, if you have that. You should get some kind of inventory management system or order management system. If you're online, you have this built into whatever your shopping cart is. So you want to be looking at returns. You want to be looking at average order value of your carts and how can you boost that through bundling, sales, and specials. You want to be looking at abandoned shopping carts. That's always something that lots of businesses don't know how to do. Like it's very simple though. You can learn this on a YouTube video or come to myself or Andrew. And yeah, so abandoned shopping carts, average cart value. Um, when you get into the world of marketing, you want to get into the data behind marketing, which is right. How many clicks are you getting? How many people are actually reading your email, like scrolling down to the bottom of your email and clicking some kind of call to action, right? Great job that you did the things and you sent out the email and you wrote the newsletter and all the stuff and you gave the coupon code. Great job. Do that for a couple months, couple weeks, and then start looking at the data. Like, I think one thing that's important, and this is, kind of moving on to another topic, there's a lot to do in business and people will try to do it all at once. Slow down, build a muscle first, and then, innovate, optimize. So I think that answers your question, Andrew. I just, listed a bunch of variables to start measuring.
Okay. No, definitely that's good. I think, one of the things that, someone was doing a TED talk that I listened to, and he basically said mostly all entrepreneurs have ADD. So, and it makes sense. My wife says I have ADD, but I'm not convinced. But, being that, if you're ADD, it's harder to focus on things like operations, like operational analysis, like analysis. Um, how do you help people be able to do that, or how do you get them, what they need? How can they get what they need as far as that, even if they don't necessarily have to do it themselves? Because if your business is going to grow, you're going to have to do these things. So, how do you help them be able to get to where they need to as far as that?
This is a great question. And one of the main things to do when you start to measure your numbers, I see this the most in finances, but it's also there in operations and production rates and values, right? Is that most people are scared of numbers. So the first conversation is usually a conversation of like, what's your relationship to numbers and what limiting beliefs do we have to deconstruct so that you're comfortable to actually measure these numbers and do these things. That's like the number one thing I propose to do is actually look at why you're not measuring them now. Is it because you're too busy? Is it because you're scared of numbers or you're avoiding, or you think numbers are tied to your self-worth? And like, if your numbers are bad, you're a bad person or you're not a good entrepreneur. All those things could be true. I usually find, at least with the people I work with, that they've had some kind of belief that, they're not good at math or they don't like calculus or something. And that's it. It's like, really, like, that's the limiting belief that has you not looking at your numbers. So first off, deconstructing it. And then it's really just a practice of every week setting that regular time to do your reviews and you log your numbers. You should be, if you're doing best practices, right? You have one time of the week where you plan your week, and you have one time of the week where you review your week. And on that back end side, you want to be plugging in these key variables that you've measured. Yeah. So it's practice, practice, practice. And I would say, like, reward yourself, right? Like, if you've done it for 3 weeks in a row, like, reward yourself. And if you fall off, and this is why it's great to work with a consultant or a coach, because you will fall off. And if you fall off, it's okay to fall off. Just the practice is how fast can you start over again. Right? If you fall off for 1-2 weeks, okay, no problem. If you fall off for like 3 months, like, ouch, right? Ouch.
And also, like you said, it's good to work with a consultant. A lot of my clients, we set things up, and then I just meet with them once a week. So, during their meeting, to make sure it happens, because it's more likely to happen if I'm scheduled to be there with them. Make sure the right questions are asked, make sure the right information's, and make sure that, things are analyzed. and forward looking. So figuring out how, what works for you and your organization is key.
I'd like to add to that, if you have a small team with you, even if it's 2 people, 3 people, 5 people, review your numbers
Mhm.
together. That accountability built in is very, very helpful for small businesses.
Yep. No, definitely. And if you're going to grow, you can only grow successfully if you run your business by the numbers. So, these are good practices to instill as early on as possible. And like you said, there's no reason to be afraid of numbers. That's chapter 3 in my book. What's your greatest fear? And I find that all the time. But I just tell people, can you add, subtract, multiply, and divide? Then and can you do it with a calculator? If you can do that, you can do the numbers. I'm just going to tell you what numbers to do it to, and that's really the extent of the math in business. Unless you're like doing some real serious analysis, there's nothing more than to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. You just got to know what to do and when to do it. You probably find that as well.
Actually, I've never said it that way, Andrew, but I'm going to borrow that.
Well, you can just send me a royalty every time you.
I mean, ladies and gentlemen, he's right. If you can add, subtract, divide, multiply with a calculator, you're good. Like, you're good.
And if you can't do that, you probably shouldn't be in business.
Probably.
So yeah, I mean, just breaking it down to that is key. So one thing that I talk about, look at with operations. I did my thesis on manufacturing, and a manufacturing project, and looking at the project after it was done, comparing where things were before, and then also comparing it to what their expectations of what would happen at the end of as a result of the automation project. And there was a lot of learning in that. I think definitely when you're working with clients, you're implementing things or you're helping them implement things. Usually you come up with a plan and you implement it, and of course things don't always go according to plan. But what are some of the things that you find? How do things generally differ from the plan, or what are some of the drivers of the differences from what the expectation was to what actually happened?
That's a good question as well. It's a loaded question. The differences to the plan to the expectations. I think that your marketing and your sales plan never goes according to plan. I've seen a lot of companies like lose a big client, or the sales they were expecting don't come in. That's a big one to be aware of, right? You want to make those projections and forecasts. You want to set 3 levels, you know, conservative, predicted, and like stretch, because that's something that catches a lot of people by surprise when it doesn't go to plan. People always that's probably the most variable one. I've worked with companies where their lead programmer quits, or lead designer, lead engineer, something happens, they get a promotion and they go to a competitor. That happened. Engineering manager got a promotion to director of engineering at a competitor, so just out. Those things are really hard to buffer against. If you are at that stage where you have some pretty high level talent, I would recommend, if you're working on a project like that you have it very well documented, and that by courtesy, they're going to give you 2 weeks. So you want to find some kind of gateway to hand off that project, whatever they're working on, department, project. So other things that might not go according to plan. This one I haven't had personal experience with, but I've heard of companies that get caught in Google and Apple changes. Facebook, if you're a Facebook company, Instagram, they get caught in some kind of algorithm change, and then they don't have any way to continue selling online. The biggest defense against that is move everyone to your mailing list as soon as possible. Your mailing list is known as is called an owned audience versus any kind of social media is called a rented audience. So you want to move everyone you can to your mailing list because that's when you actually have control over your ability to contact them. You don't have any control over social media. Other things that can't go according to plan, on the operational side, you can never predict when a piece of equipment is going to go down. The only thing you can do is your preventative maintenance. So I would highly recommend you stick to some regular maintenance schedule. Most pieces of equipment, they only need 2 to 4, times a year of regular maintenance, right? So if you're a manufacturing company, if you're an industrial company, get your cranes, your cranes maintained, your fork trucks, your high-lows, your bays, any kind of like heater, cooler, chiller unit, heat exchange, get all that stuff regularly maintained because that could really upset someone, really upset an operation to go down out of operation for 2-3 days, a week. And then, if you go down, you're either paying at the nose to get like a crew in there by emergency. That's probably your best. You either fix it yourself. Okay, best case scenario, you go down, you fix it yourself. Second best case scenario, you pay someone, right? Third worst case scenario is you pay someone and you pay extra. Or fourth scenario, you can't find anyone to fix it, which if you have older equipment, that could be a possibility. So regular maintenance to prevent those unknown things. And then you can get, again, like it's all levels in business. You can get like way more sophisticated. You can start getting into like redundancies, especially if you have equipment. You can buy double piece, 2 pieces of equipment. You can buy spare parts, keep them on the shelf. If you have a supply chain, you could dual source your suppliers. So you have your main person that you buy from, and then you can have a secondary supplier who you don't buy from, but you know that they carry the parts or the units that you need in case something happens with supplier A, you go to supplier B. That's definitely a tool inside of operational excellence, usually seen with larger companies that can afford and have the capacity to do all that work. But, it just depends. How sophisticated are you? And if you really want to grow and reach those levels, when you start getting to 7 figures, multi 7 figures, multi 8 figures, those are things you want to be looking at.
Okay. So that's cool. I always say, failing to plan is planning to fail. So, the one good thing is coming in, you help them to plan and come up with the strategy because you're more likely to be successful with a plan than without a plan. Like you talked about, the marketing stuff tends to be difficult. A lot of marketing stuff is out of your hands in many ways. You can't control it. But your operations, you should be able to control in a way that you can't with the marketing. So that's why it's important to make sure you manage it as effectively as possible. In my thesis, they found that the result of the automation was twice as beneficial as they thought it would be, because there were a lot of hidden things that were happening that they didn't even take into account. You mentioned scrap. They didn't realize how much scrap they had. A lot of little things that add up to a lot. So, looking at what you're doing operationally, making changes, because sometimes things aren't, there's different costs or deficiencies or whatever that you're losing. So definitely, it doesn't always have to be negative deviations from plan. So they're definitely positives, even on the marketing sales side. Definitely we're covering a lot of interesting stuff. But time goes fairly fast, so I'm going to do another short video. Those of you who have actually been to my Power Breakfast events before, you know how it's been very impactful for a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners. If you haven't, actually we're having our conference on July 26th, and that's going to be probably the best one ever. So we're going back to Newark and encourage you to come check us out and join us if you can. So I'm going to play a short video to give you a heads up about what we're doing there, and hopefully you can join us. And then I'll be back talking small business with Josh Dan. We're here at the Small Business Power Breakfast and Conference. I'm excited to say that we had a great day.
This event was a wow. Every panel, every speaker has had so much amazing content and good information to share.
This is a good day to put aside to come out and do some learning, but also make some great connections. The ones that I made were impactful.
Hi, I'm Andrew Frazier, masterpreneur and founder of the Small Business Pro University. For more than 10 years, our events have directly resulted in tens of millions of dollars in both revenue and financing for attendees. Join me at the Small Business Pro Power Conference on July 26th in Newark, New Jersey, to learn best practices, enjoy great networking, and gain useful knowledge. We will supercharge your day.
Hi, I'm Lana Molina, Community Outreach Liaison for Lakeland Bank. Lakeland Bank is proud to sponsor the Power Breakfast this year, actually for the entire year. We are very thrilled for this partnership to put much needed small business financial literacy education and create forums like this for entrepreneurs and small business owners to meet, interact, learn, and network.
The conference theme is Secrets to Generating More Revenue. And you don't want to miss our featured guest speaker, Precious L. Williams, the killer pitch master. She will be talking about Rainmaking 101 from day one.
Good day, everyone. My name is Precious Williams, and I'm the proud founder and CEO of the Perfect Pitch Group.
I've trained over 400 pitch champions, and I'm not talking about second and third place. So raise your hands if you want earned media attention for your business. Y'all ain't raising your hands fast enough. Who wants customers and clients to repeatedly come back to you? Oh, y'all being real low up in here. I want to hear some action up in these streets. Girl. And you.
You'll also want to check out our expert panel, Creating Strategic Alliances to Drive Revenue Growth. I look forward to seeing you at the Small Business Pro Power Conference on July 26th in Newark, New Jersey. To learn more and register, visit www.sbpru.com/conference. Take advantage of our early bird pricing by registering today at www.sbpru.com/conference. Welcome back. I'm here with Josh Tan, talking small business. We're talking about operations, and you mentioned earlier that product businesses always have operations, and many times extensive operations. But many people may think that service businesses don't have operations, but they usually do, or they should. Because that's an important part of the business. One of the strategies and things that I've learned is even as a service business, you need to be selling products as opposed to services, and packaging your products or your services as a product. You know, not sure, what your, experience is with that, or, how you look at products, but, you know, seeing, when you're looking at, you know, product development, and, making sure that, your products are managed effectively. You mentioned KPIs and indicators. Um, what are some examples of those that you may use for a client, especially on the operations side?
So KPIs on operations side, was that the question?
Yeah, KPIs, and then also, I guess many KPIs are indicators as well. But some of the key operational KPIs that you might have for both a product and or a service business.
Okay. So, I mean, the number one thing that you want to be looking at, which we've touched on already, is saleable product or service. Like if you're talking specifically about operations, we're not talking about sales. We're not talking about marketing. We're not talking about customer satisfaction, right? We're talking specifically about operations. You want to be looking at basically success, like the number of successful attempts you have, right? If this was like a basketball analogy, it's like I took, 10 shots and I made 8 baskets, right? That's the whole scrap thing with a product-based business. So let's just make up some examples here, right? And try to pull from some recent experience. So if you're manufacturing your own product, and I'll also talk about service-based businesses as well. If you're manufacturing your own product, you want to be looking at number of units in, like I bought 10 blanks, or I bought 10 molds, I bought 10 pieces of wood, and I made 10 products. You want to get that to as close as 1-to-1 as possible. You could also measure that by pounds. If you're doing some kind of batch, you can measure it in pounds. You should be able to see that pretty easily because you're making orders. So number one thing for a product-based business is the number of good units you have. Other KPIs you can measure is your runtime, right? Maybe it takes you, and this would also go well for a service-based business, like if you're, let's say, cutting yards or doing plumbing calls or something like that. If you're doing a job, how long does it take you to complete that job, right? Does it take you an hour to make one unit? Does it take you an hour to do one service call? That's a really great measure because you can start to see if it takes you an hour, maybe you can get 4-6 jobs in a day, right? Plus travel time, plus break time. So time is a huge factor you want to be measuring. For service-based businesses, other KPIs you could measure. So for a service business, you want to be measuring if there's any kind of rework. This could be for a product-based business too, but a rework would be how many times you have to go back to the job site or how many times you have to service the same customer to get the job done. It might, a lot of people could write it off like, oh, they was just a hard customer. Like, oh, this guy he was just complaining a lot. He just was picky. Well, is that true? Or did you just kind of do the job subpar and you had to do it a couple times to fix it? That's something you can look at for sure as a service-based business. How many jobs are completed in one shot versus 2? So time, return, rework and returns, scrap, which we talked about a number of times already. You could do something as well, like out of spec. That could be something that you might want to measure. That's more for a product-based business. If you have a shirt or something you're designing, maybe it's a little bit off color. Maybe it's a little bit out of shape. It might be a little bit longer or a little bit shorter, a little bit heavier. little bit lighter, but it's still saleable, right? That's a really good measure that starts to get more sophisticated, because if that number drifts over time, which without good controls, it could drift. If it starts to drift over time, then you'll run into a scenario where you have a lot of problems. And then, if you let it drift over time, when you see the problem, you might not know where it came from if you weren't measuring it. You might start firefighting and trying to fix it without realizing it's been something that's been, let's say, decaying or depreciating over time, like something that's been declining over time, and you don't see it until it's just too bad. And then you're chasing a different problem because you didn't actually see the problem arise. So specification, it's a good one to measure and look at. Yeah, so those are just some of the things I would recommend, coming from a high level engineering background. And then again, the same thing. How sophisticated do you want to get? Solve for the key things first, and then continually get more sophisticated. That's really the game of operational excellence. You go from good to great to excellent.
Okay, so it's really about continual improvement, and actually, your business should be about continual improvement. You mentioned previously that once you solve certain problems, then you sort of move over to different problems, and so that's really what business is all about. Once you solve certain problems, you get new problems or new challenges, and that's the nature, of what it's all about. But also that makes it fun, and makes it so that you're continually learning. So no, this was good. I mean, an hour goes pretty fast, and we covered a lot of different stuff. So what I like to do is close out with really 3 key things that people should take away. We talked about different things, but what are 3 things people should definitely take away from what we talked about that they can use to implement within their business starting tomorrow, or even tonight if they're night owls. I'll give you a sec to think about it, play a short video on my most recent book, and then we'll come back and hear from Josh on those top 3 key things.
Most businesses are not growing, could be more profitable, and have cash flow issues due to lack of capital. What if you knew the secret to generating revenue, maximizing profitability, and acquiring capital when you need it?
I'm Andrew Frazier, and I have developed a proven 5-step framework to take you from startup to scaling faster and easier.
I laid it all out in the Masterpreneur Playbook. It's available now in both English and Spanish on Amazon, Audible, and my website, sbprouU.com. Get your copy today to start selling more and making more sooner.
Okay, great. I'm here with Josh talking about how to boost your profit with operational excellence. We covered a lot of topics, but what are 3 key things that people should take away from what we discussed today, Josh?
Great way to end the show, Andrew. And thank you again. So 3 things to take away. We all know, as business owners, entrepreneurs, we should be measuring our numbers. We know that. So the key takeaway is not to measure, but it's to set time to measure. I think that's where a lot of people drop the ball. They don't set time to actually do the things they need to do. So set time to measure your objectives. On the operations side, we all talk about plans, ideas, projects that we're doing, right? Initiatives. Something a lot of small businesses don't do is they don't talk about the problems that need to be stopped. So number 2 would be plan to stop problems. That is something that's like stop problems, but also predict problems that could be coming down the line and get proactive and stop them before they happen. So plan to stop and predict problems before they happen. And number 3, I think that the team, especially for small businesses, the team is extremely important. Working in a team collaborative environment where you can hold each other accountable is extremely important. You can do that by having a weekly meeting, a daily huddle, like 10-15 minutes. But don't try to do it all by yourself, right? Encourage your team to speak up when things are going wrong. Encourage them to point things out, even to yourself as the business owner. But make it a team effort, and it becomes harder to just kind of like slip through the cracks. And that's what I would recommend.
Okay, no, great insights. Definitely, we know we got to measure, but we don't do it. And why? Because generally we don't set the time, or we don't, we don't set the time, or we don't really focus on it. So definitely doing that is key. Avoiding problems, being proactive. I'm still trying to come up with a better marketing slogan, but one of the things I think about is I kind of make your business boring. You don't have all these surprises or weird, terrible things happening. So, and that's sort of what operational excellence is all about. You help people be proactive, solve problems before they happen. And then your team, having your team aligned and working effectively and efficiently. So, no, this was great. I think it's valuable. Definitely, people will get a lot out of this. And, great having you on the show. Of course, we've got your website and your LinkedIn info in the chat. So people who want to reach out to Josh, feel free to do that. He's a friendly guy, so he doesn't bite. So feel free to reach out to him, and I encourage you to do that. And thanks again, Josh. Anything you want to share before we close out?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew, for having me. If you guys are watching and you found if you're interested in what I have to say, send me a message that you found me on this show, and I'll run you like a, special hour audit, consulting hour, something for free, a gift for you for listening to us talk today. So please reach out and let's connect.
Okay, great. All right. Thanks, Josh. Hang out for a minute as I close out, and, we'll go from there. So once again, we had another great show. Always appreciate, the tremendous guests we have, and really just being able to cover different topics that could be helpful to you and your business and help you be more successful. So, each week we have a different topic, different guest. Next week, we've got Stan Robinson, and we're going to talk about 3 ways small business can utilize AI for growth. Everybody knows that, AI is a great tool, and it's taking the world by storm. But, especially as a small business owner, if you don't take advantage of that, you're just going to be at such a disadvantage. So, Stan's going to just share a couple ways that you can easily take advantage of the power of AI, and, a little bit about how AI works and can help you with your business. So hopefully you can join us next week as well. And, always remember, at the end of the day, the more that you know, the faster and more successfully your business is going to grow.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpro.u.com.